Cabin 13 Productions.
I'm pretty sure I am afraid of death. Dressed as Fat Thor from Endgame, the one that
No, I'm just kidding.
He said he kept feeling like he had something looking at him. And so he kept shining his flashlight into the woods.
I mean, I'm dressed as Mothman. Momo's the homie, bro.
Momo can kiss my ass, dude. I
I'm such a loser, sweating God, I'm the worst.
Darkness creeps all through the trees. The moonlight meets an eerie breeze. Bears and wolves in search of prey promote a podcast for all to play. And those in chat who do ignore, who leave no rating at our door, shall see the shadow men at night and perish from a werewolf's bite. The stench of Bigfoot fills the air, and black-eyed children seek to scare. Creeps and cryptids will haunt your dreams, and they'll feed off your horrid screams. And those who don't rate and subscribe, your foolish choices will not last. For no mere mortal can resist the Halloween Woodsmen Podcast. Ah! Happy Halloween and welcome back to the Woodsmen Podcast. We're your hosts, Thor Odinson.
And Mothman.
And welcome back, chat. Happy Halloween.
Happy
Another
Halloween-y.
great episode. If you can't tell, for our audio listeners and anyone who's watching YouTube who's blind,
And you guys are reading by Braille for some reason.
on a YouTube video. That would be a service, dude. A service just where it's like a conveyor belt for fingers, but it's like captions, but for blind people, and it's a little conveyor belt with Braille on it, and you just
You're like, oh,
wait,
that's funny. That's funny.
Is that slab? Did they say slab of meat?
It's like, I didn't know this was a deli channel.
Yeah, I thought this was a Woodsman podcast.
Well, for anyone who isn't a visual listener and is listening solely by audio, my boy Joseph Barefax over there.
No,
is...
that's our news anchor. I'm just Joey.
Oh, you're right.
That's my cousin.
So Joey is dressed as Fat Thor from Endgame, the one that
Fat?
you know.
No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, I already know.
Yeah, I know.
No, he's dressed like a Thor who gave up from Endgame, and and I'm
That's
dressed
me.
as Mothman.
And I'm dressed as Mothman.
I'm dressed as Mothman.
Yes, sir. This is our special Woodsman Halloween episode. We had a Christmas episode where we went all out, and we thought it would only be right with all the spooky stuff we've been doing this month that we had to celebrate. We had to go all in.
Amen, brethren.
But
So like that begs the question: You're a Christmas guy, aren't you? You like
Yes,
Christmas
sir.
more than Halloween?
yes,
That's whack.
I was going to tell you that I'm pretty much wanting, as you have taken control of the Halloween season for
Take control
Woodsman,
of all the Christmas
I think
December
I
season.
want to give us some fun
Dude,
Christmas stuff.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
down. Only if you include like Mothman, because like all the Mothman stuff happened in December.
Is in our topic so far. Like I have him. I don't know if he's going to be a full episode,
but you should take control. You should be the one to do all the research this time.
I would love to. I think
that would be
great.
awesome.
I don't know if anyone heard that, but Fat Thor's stomach just.
He sounded like Korg.
Sounded like Korg. Welcome back to the Woodsmen Podcast. We're doing this bit again, like we've done in the last 4 episodes.
For Aussie listeners.
4 Aussie episodes for our Aussie listeners. No, but we hope you guys enjoyed us getting all out. We really wanted to do something special for you guys, and it really is brutal because let us tell you, it's already hot. And I can only imagine what it's going to be like recording an hour's worth of footage for this.
Dude, I mean, I have a feeling we're going to this is probably going to be our longest episode.
Yeah,
Easy.
probably.
Easy.
But we got housekeeping, as always. Housekeeping is time for us to get into it. Last episode, the Becks, Black Eyed Kids.
Hell yeah.
That was fun. That was a good episode.
Dude, I was actually very surprised on like how well that one went. As far as like the stories were like pretty solid.
I very much enjoyed personally.
Your sound design?
I thought some of the sound was pretty good cuz you came up with the sound ideas. I just had to implement them.
But you found some
there were a couple
perfect ones. Perfect
Sorry,
ones.
chat. Well, I have a hair in my mouth.
As you could tell.
As you can tell if you're watching us on the Woodsman YouTube page. But yeah, no, it was a great episode. It just came out for you guys, so we hope you guys are going to be enjoying it this week. Make sure that if you haven't seen it, to go check it out. We talk about the phenomenon of black-eyed children who try to get into your house, and as we said on the last episode, don't let them in.
Definitely do not let them in. It's definitely not worth it, especially with Halloween, because this is the Halloween special.
This is.
For the love of God, if you see any kids with just black eyes and no costumes, just leave some candy outside.
Just say no.
Don't even open the door. Just
not
throw
worth
it
it
out through. Like if you have one of those cool doors that have the mail slots in it, just leave the candy through the mail slot. And like, don't even open the door, bro. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Dude, speaking of like
mail slots,
not mail slots, but like giving candy out.
Yeah.
I told you I watched the Terrifier movies, right?
Yes.
Bro,
I actually just watched Terrifier 2 last night.
Oh my god, dude! Then then it's fresh in your mind.
Are you gonna,
bro? That scene when he comes out from the house of the girl you warned me about on this podcast, but he's holding the head of the mother, and he's like giving candy out to children.
None of the kids even notice, bro.
They're like, "That's so cool! What a great little idea!"
Maybe we should play it. Should that be a disclaimer?
Should play it?
Or not? No, not play it. But should we play a disclaimer? Because it's a little graphic for our young. You know, honestly, if you guys have been here with the Woodsmen, you should expect this from us.
We aren't explicit, but it doesn't. On YouTube, it says it's not made for children. So
it's 100% not made for children.
Yeah,
so
we're talking about people who've died and
coming from Thor.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You know,
I am Thor.
I am Thor.
Of Asgard.
I am Korg.
I am Korg.
JK, I'm Mothman.
I'm Mothman. You think Mothman and Thor would be best friends?
I mean, probably. Mothman's just chilling, bro. I think he'd just be saving people from impending doom, but people don't listen.
It makes me think of Mothman. I think that was his name, but from Cyanide and Happiness. Was it Mothman?
Was it Mothman?
He's like...
Oh my gosh!
And he like flies out of a window.
I mean, I was
Thank you, Mothman, and he just eats all their clothes.
I think it was Mothman. I didn't even know where you were going with it on that segment until I realized bro was just eating their clothes.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! I thought you were talking about the Smosh episode where he goes, "Man spider,
man spider." No,
he's just a guy dressed up in a spider suit, bro. Like what?
Okay, well, we gotta get back on track.
That was perfect.
Another housekeeping item for you today, chat. Again, Patreon page is up.
Yes. And we have ideas brewing.
Yes, we do.
For Patreon. So
We're going to try and at least get at least one thing for you guys to view by this month. But we have, like Brent said, I'm sorry, Mothman. As my dear friend Mothman said,
going straight back into Korg.
We have a lot of ideas for little things that we also want to put up on the page
Yes.
as well.
Especially actually having to do with this episode later on down the line.
Yeah.
We will be throwing some things in. Definitely some spooky things, obviously, because it is the spooky season. So we actually have some bits of media that we're definitely looking forward to sharing for our Patreon viewers. So make sure you subscribe to Patreon. It's subscribing, right?
You asked me in the last episode, and I didn't know, and I still don't.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's
cool.
following,
Well,
subscribing, or paying. Or
whatever it is.
Either way,
make sure you do it before we put a paywall on.
That's
because
true,
we don't
yeah.
have a paywall right now. But any little bit of money that you do, send us on Patreon. That goes literally just to furthering this podcast.
Yes.
Because we don't make any money right now doing this. We've spent an ungodly amount of money producing this. And so this will just keep going to making this podcast bigger and better than it is now.
Yes,
So
every dollar or cent or donation you can give,
it doesn't go to us.
it doesn't go to us. It will be
doesn't go to
going
our
straight to this
paycheck.
podcast and making it better for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. So we're super excited for this new season of just being able to actually do more. And we're looking forward to doing more just with Cabin 13 as well in general. So thank you guys for all the support and giving us a platform to just share our dreams,
Yeah.
So super excited.
And you guys will realize pretty soon here, but just to mention it now before we get into the swing of things, you let us down, chat. You let us down. We didn't get enough spooky stories from you guys. And so that's it. That's the end of the episode.
Yep, we're done. You guys failed us. So, short episode.
Pause for dramatic effect.
JK is actually one of the longest episodes we're ever going to have. So,
No, but we didn't get a lot of stories from you guys, so we kind of went in and asked some friends of ours so that you can look forward to for their own stories. But that doesn't mean you can't tell us stories now. So if you guys have any stories, anything spooky that you would love to like share and maybe have, have spoken about on this podcast in the future episodes, please let us know. And you can send those stories in to thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com as always.
Or you can leave us a DM at Woodsmen Pod on Instagram. We are eventually going to bring up Twitter so that way we can have a little bit more conversational type of stuff with you guys. But for the meantime, hit us up on Instagram. Mothman here is the one that's pretty much in control of all the Instagram stuff. And I answer and post almost daily. I would say I post pretty much daily. Even if it's just
use
stories.
that Instagram to see conversations that we're having with people like you and to check our stats because I'm curious about it sometimes.
I mean, it's kind of funny too because there's sometimes where like I'm talking to someone like the guest we're gonna have on tonight, and I'll get texts from Joey just randomly like, "Oh hey, I saw you're talking to so and so," and I'm like, "How?" And then,
I think sometimes you forget that I also have the Instagram page.
I'm like, bro could post at any time, but instead
I
he's
just don't know
lurking.
how, dude. You've been doing so good with the Instagram lately. I just don't know what I'm supposed to like. I thought about doing one today. I thought about taking the camera, and all I was gonna do is I was gonna hold it up to my face, and I was gonna be like, "Oh, I forgot I had access to this account." And then I was gonna
don't you, bro? Please. Oh my god, it'd be so
I'll try and
funny.
do better, Chad. I'll try and do better for you. I'll try and start Thor will try and start
Boy.
posting more.
Well, I mean, because whoever's in control of Instagram really has control over Facebook as well. So anyone who actually like follows my personal Facebook, everything just goes onto my Facebook stories and my actual page. So if you, I guess, want info on The Woodsmen, I guess, just friend me on Facebook. I guess
At Mothman.
at Mothman.
It's not at Mothman
It's
because that
not.
probably is an account.
It is 100% an account.
It's not at Mothman.
It's Brent Murphy. You know, you guys should know me by now by all my tags, all my names. So, you know, but yeah, I guess if you guys want some more information and you're weirdo Facebook users, you know, if you're like 40, I mean, if you look like giving up Thor over here, then I guess you still use Facebook.
You're right. But yes, so today is all things Halloween, all things spooky, and all things that give us the spookies,
The heebie-jeebies.
the heebie-jeebies. So
And the things that go bump in the night.
But yeah, so let's dive right in.
Woo!
Heyo. So our first official Halloween themed episode.
Just some
Finally
lightning
did it,
or some
dude.
shit.
We've almost made it to a year's worth of recording. We're almost there.
It is insane because, yeah, it's like a year's worth of recording for chat, but God, it's been like, what, like 3 years of recording?
3 years of work for sure.
3 years
Yeah.
of work for us to lose like a year's
Yeah.
worth of work. So,
And no, but I'm excited to do this one because we got we did a Christmas episode and we did it all themed and fun. And,
yeah, we did.
And so now I'm
By the way, I
excited to-
loved your intro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I we'll see how it goes after editing. I think it went well in the recording, but I'm gonna pray that it's not cringy and dumb, and hopefully chat loved it too.
It's not going to be cringy, bro.
Thanks, dog.
I already
Thanks,
heard
dog.
the raw edit, so I already am like, yes, sir, Thriller, paying homage to my fave, Michael Jackson. You
Yes,
already
sir.
know.
Yes, sir.
Darkness falls.
Cross the line. But yeah, dude. So this is our spooky episode, and so it's kind of we're gonna talk about stuff that we're scared of, and then spooky stuff.
Spoopy skeleton.
But yeah. So let me ask you, do you have any like fears that kind of stick with you that aren't like, oh, I'm afraid of the dark and I don't like spiders?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dang, if we're going to go into, like, the realness in such a short amount of time, like, I'm pretty sure, like, I am, like, afraid of death and, like, what comes after, you know? I don't think I was afraid of death for a long time.
Is it the dying that scares you, or is it the after?
No, it's the after for sure.
Okay.
I think, as Chad knows, like we grew up like in church and everything like that. We grew up in a, private Christian school from I grew up from kindergarten through 12th. I don't know if yours was kindergarten or pre-K or anything like that, but
What, the Christian?
yeah,
Faith?
growing up in like Christian church and all that.
Oh yeah, I
stuff.
mean, my preschool, or would you call it preschool? Yeah, preschool was my church. So at the time,
Yeah. So, I mean, growing up and all that kind of stuff, you're kind of taught like one thing only. And if you believed in it, you had nothing to fear. But I think kind of like when you get older, you kind of branch out, you like learn your own. You walk your own path, not learn your own path, but you walk it, and you kind of try out like what you think could be real, what couldn't be real, all of that kind of stuff. And I think even though I could say it's been a good thing that I've been able to like walk out, branch out, and experience other things, I think it has made it a little bit scarier, because at the end of the day, like when we all die, no religion really truly knows like where they're going. And I think that's like what's scary. You know, we all kind of give ourselves our own sense of security, but I think when it boils down to the end of it all, like we really don't know like what the afterlife is.
No,
you know?
we've talked about that a lot on the podcast, and that the whole, idea, at least for me, I think you as well, is that the point of this podcast is to learn and to get to know new things that we didn't know prior, and branch out to subjects that just interest us. And a lot of the reason that is kind of the thing is because we don't know the answers. No one knows the answers. And I think you and I very much agree that everyone believes wholeheartedly in their own, faith or trust in what happens in the afterlife. But no one really knows the answer. No, you can say you do, but at the end of the day, everyone just has faith. They don't know.
Yeah.
At least not the literal definition of know. And I, it's a fair thing to be afraid of, because we don't know what could happen.
It's crazy. I mean, we went through our near-death experience episodes, and we covered a lot of material that had to do with not only people of like the Christian faith, Islamic faith, Hinduism. Oh gosh.
Excuse you.
Yeah, thank you. Hinduism, Buddhism, all that kind of stuff, even atheism. And they're all coming up with like the same relative things going on with their lives, and their own interpretations of the afterlife, and but I think like all of that is very subjective. I think, depending on what we've grown up and we believed in, a lot of people who've grown up in the Christian faith, like they'll claim like, hey, yeah, like I saw Jesus and it was all amazing. It was all this, blah, 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 But then some people, even, of an atheistic, mindset, they're like, I believed in nothing, yet like I still, had the views of like, oh yeah, there was a bright light in a tunnel and I walked to it, and then there was like all of these weird, dimensional beings that like told me this and that and blah, blah, blah. And they got sent back to their body, So it's like, I feel like all of it is very subjective. It's subjective to the mind. It's subjective to like whoever the experiencer is and like what they believe and how wholeheartedly they believe in it. And a lot of that has like made me come to the belief of like, maybe we're all just, almost creating our own reality. There's a part of our brain that's sitting there, and it's like, if it's strong enough that maybe we can sort of make our own reality a, reality in general. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting, and it sucks we'll never get the answers. That's the thing that like pisses me off, we're never going to get those answers until like we're there.
That's kind of, for me, not to put down your fear, but to me, in a weird way, the knowing that we're not going to know has sort of gotten me to a place in my life where I feel content. Content's not the right definition, because I'm not content. I just am.
You just are.
I am Joseph BFX.
BFX.
But no, I came to accept that I'm not going to know the answers. And in a way, it made me lazy in most regards of not seeking out the answers. But it also has sort of given me some rest in a way, where now I don't feel the strain to be afraid of the unknown, because whatever comes tomorrow is coming tomorrow, and whether that's me passing or that's me living another day to raise my blood pressure.
Understandable.
It doesn't scare me anymore, but I also don't want to put it down either, because I understand this is a fear a lot of people have. This is a very common fear, we all live in the same world together. We all have to live out every day after the last. And one day it is inevitable that all of us are going to die.
Yeah.
And so it's a fair fear. It truly is. I don't judge you for it at all. I didn't know we were getting so real on this episode.
Hey, you asked, so I'm delivering.
No, I'm like trying to think of what a real fear of mine would be. Like, I have real fears, but man, yours is like in the soul, dude.
I know, man. I'm 24 and I'm out here asking questions of a 60, 70-year-old. So I don't know, man. There's just so much that I don't know. I mean, as a friend, you have known just how much that I've like questioned just with life in general. I mean, maybe not like anything faith-based or anything like that, but like, do aliens exist? Like, if they do, like, what are they? Are they spiritual? Are they physical? Are they like coming from another world? Are they coming from this world? Are they all this stuff? And it goes into a multitude of different things. Like, we joke about it a lot, but like interdimensional Bigfoot, or like, is it a physical thing, or is it, is it something tangible, or is it something only a few people are like destined to see, like in their life and everything? And yeah, a lot of people joke about it, and a lot of people, make fun, and like, that's fine. Like, not a lot of people like get it, but that's like, that's stuff that like I really want to know. Like, I want to know because there's so much. I mean, I'm dressed as Mothman, like, like I wholeheartedly believe that there is something out there that we just don't understand. And when it comes to stuff like Mothman, I mean, Mothman showed up for 13 months, and over 100 and I think like 50 to 70 people witnessed him within those 13 months in one specific area, Point Pleasant in West Virginia. They all witnessed it. And then in the middle of that, you have John Keel, who wrote the Mothman prophecies, who had literally so many weird, not even like Mothman type of encounters, because he had never seen Mothman. Like, through the 13 months of like everyone like seeing this weird thing happening, he had never witnessed it. But he had encounters where he had traveled into, Point Pleasant. He decided like, oh, okay, I guess I'll stay at this motel, like while he's driving. He gets to the hotel, and then the person says like, oh, John Q, oh, we have like 13 missed calls for you. What is that?
Yeah, that's weird.
Like, he didn't even know he was going to stay there until like 10, 15 minutes before he got there, So it's like stuff like that. And then you have all this weird, like, mix matched, like, information where it's like, oh, this weird and bad thing is going to happen. You need to let people know. He lets them know he sounds crazy, and then, like, something bad happens somewhere else instead of where he was told, You have stuff with, like, Woodrow Derenberger, who, before all the Mothman sightings, had seen what he described was a flying weird vintage lamp of a UFO flying down the road with black sedans following it, which sounds a lot like Men in Black type of things, following this weird type of lantern UFO type of thing. And then out comes a being called Indra Cold, and he walks up to his car. He's like grinning, like creepily, like Cheshire Cat grin, and he's talking to Woodrow Derenberger in his head. He's not moving his mouth, but he can hear everything that this being is saying, And he has his own encounter, and he ends up writing his own book of like his own encounters, So it's like, yo, all this stuff going on, and like that's just like one of the weirdest, ones that I find like interesting, because like I think John Keel went through a lot of stuff. He even went through people who he deemed was the Men in Black just appearing in his apartment. Not coming to his apartment, just appearing inside his apartment. And then, like, oh, how do we prove to you that we mean business? They go to his, sink in his kitchen, not, like, just coming out with it, just randomly. Like, they pull out his bleach under his, like, cabinet and just downs the bleach in front of him. So it's like, bro knows, like, oh, that's my bleach. Like, that's not like bro just didn't put
bleach.
Yeah, like bro just didn't put water in a bleach bucket and then just like, had it like on hand. He went over, grabbed like John Keel's bleach and just like downed it, and he's like, we mean business. Stuff like that, where it's like, there's just like too many weird occurrences going on in the world that, not a lot of normal people hear about because they don't believe it in general. They don't believe anything like that could ever happen, so they just block it out of their mind. Meanwhile, you have people like John Keel. You have people that have investigated this stuff, that have written books, that have like done all this stuff. And like people just kind of dismiss it as like, oh, but they're crazy, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to listen to it.
Yeah.
But these are credible people who have never once like sat there and lied.
We've mentioned, I think, before on the podcast that it only takes one time for it to be real.
Yeah.
And, honestly, one of the most, one time where I felt the most afraid was not when I saw my first encounter with the Shadow Man, but when we were in your garage and we were discussing it afterwards, when it sort of, finally clicked. And I finally was like, oh, something may have actually been looking at me,
Yeah.
It was the feeling, it's something, I think I mentioned it in the last episode. But I hate the feeling of being seen by something I don't understand. And it was when I had come to terms with, okay, I guess now I fully believe that something was in that car that night. But now that I believe that, now I know that it was looking at me. And now I have all these, there's something about perception in a way that just freaks me out. It gives me the chills. I think it's why I don't like Momo. Also, by the way, side note, screw you for making me put that in.
I didn't even make you put it in.
You asked me to in the episode. Yeah, but you asked me in the episode to include it. Because
it was funny.
A terrible video. I hated it. And bro, okay, side story for you. I have such a funny little tale for you. I'm editing that episode, right? I include the clip in the part where we were discussing it.
Yeah.
It comes up. It's the video of you. You looked a lot different.
Yeah.
But it morphs from your face into Momo. And then I was like, well, it kind of is, it cuts off really fast as far as a visual representation for chat. So I'm like, I'll just get the last frame of that video where it's just Momo. I'll include it in the timeline and I'll stretch it out a bit so it lasts like maybe 2 seconds longer.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do this in my editing program, but I find a thing that says like render in folder, and you could choose to render the frame. What I didn't know was when I rendered the frame, it rendered every frame of that video, every single individual frame. And what I didn't know was that when I closed the project afterwards and I went to my desktop on my computer, my entire computer was filled to the brim with just Momo frames.
Oh, hell
everywhere.
Yeah, dude.
No, I was so scared. I was terrified because I hate the face, and thinking about it gives me the ick. Isn't that what the people call it now? The
Momo is the homie, bro.
Momo can kiss my ass, dude. I hate Momo, and I'm sorry to go on this little spiel, but it freaked me the hell out when I thought I was done editing the video. I'm like, oh, finally. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, the day before it's due. I go to bed, and when I turn off the program, all of a sudden there's just 1,000 Momos looking at me on my desktop.
But like, let's dive into that. Like the human perception is such a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for someone like me, Momo means nothing. Like, I literally have no qualms with Momo. The picture, I find the picture funny. You know, it's not scary whatsoever. But then, like, we have you that is like, you don't even want to talk about it. You don't even want to hear the word Momo. Yeah. So, like, what is that? Like, what is that about the human consciousness that has, like, made us differ so much that, like, it's almost like our reality has shifted into, like, what we deem scary and what we don't deem scary. And, like, that even comes into that uncanny valley type of thing. Like, what is
reality shifting? I mean, not to be the skeptic here again, but is it reality shifting, or is it just a difference of opinion and what you grew up as? And
I mean, maybe, but like, what have you, like, you personally, how have you grown up to be afraid of Momo?
I don't know. I mean,
like, because you have to think we grew up the same. As far as, like, school, we grew up in the same type of settings.
That's also not completely true, because you grew up with a lot less boundaries than I did, especially in your childhood. You grew up being allowed to watch horror movies and even just stupid TV shows that had, like, I wasn't allowed to watch Pokemon, you know?
Yeah, like, that's wild.
And so, like, I was very, very sheltered as a kid, and I think my child personality really showed that. I was kind of a dork, but nerd. But I don't know. So when I finally did get to experience scarier things, whether it be photos, videos, movies, TV, video games, I was very like I was coming from a place where I didn't know anything, and so. Now, to be fair, Momo came at a time where I had experienced stuff by that point. I had seen, you know, the It movies, which was my first horror film, which actually is interesting, because you'd think that scary-ass clown mouth would freak me out if I don't like the Momo mouth.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something about, I don't know what it is, because it's also not just Momo.
I mean.
It's also not just Momo, though, because I've had other, like I've had short films pop up on my YouTube page as, like, recommendations, and they'll have the monster,
the face of God.
The face of the face of God's a good
chat,
one.
You guys need to go on YouTube and search up the face of God. That's a good one.
that one made me cry, I think.
Yeah, that one's scary. That one's scary.
But there's, like, other ones where it's something, maybe it's the uncanny valley aspect for the most part, because there are other ones where like it's just a person's eyes, but their face is just flat, and there's no mouth, there's no nose, there's not even, like, freckles or anything. And something about that just gives me that same disgusting feeling. It's when something looks almost normal and human, but then it's not. Almost like it's
the uncanny valley.
Almost like it's trying to trick me. I think it's that it's trying to scare me. I know it's not trying to scare me, but it's also trying to scare me. If you catch me.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But I don't know why that means why I'm different than you in that regard.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, we did grow up with different, like, parental supervisions, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like, I grew up, like I've said to chat before, shout out the cartoon nostalgia episode. There was a Chillcast. I have said before, like, I had grown up I didn't really watch a lot of kid shows. I mean, I did, but I didn't. You know, I had my set, you know, like, okay,
What was it?
I watched Dragon
X-Files
Tales. I
or
watched
something?
like all that. But like,
Or
yeah,
Bones?
I grew up watching the X-Files. The first scary movie I'd ever seen was like Chucky, The Seed of Chucky. You know, like I grew up watching those movies, and like not by choice. Like it was just on, and I sat there and watched it. You know, I grew up watching those, but I also grew up watching Scooby-Doo. I also grew up watching like all of like Danny Phantom. I grew up watching like all of those kind of shows where it's like Danny Phantom. What is it? A boy turns into a ghost boy hybrid.
Sure,
You know,
but that's not.
X-Files was literally about government files that were unexplained.
Yeah.
That Fox
Yeah.
Mulder and Scully like went and tried to, you know, understand with Fox being the one who was open to all of it and Scully being the one that was like very skeptic, you know. Then you had Scooby-Doo, where all it was a whole bunch of teens trying to discover
Oh
if,
my
like-
God! Speaking of Scooby-Doo, I'm so sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
you're good.
But did you hear? I mean, I don't know how. I don't want to.
the Velma show's
No.
canceled?
Well, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
But no.
thank you. That show was bad. And you know what was sad is like we even gave it a chance. We watched how many episodes together, and it was like this is actually not
I
good.
don't remember, dude. There's a really good. Speaking of scary stuff in this episode, there's a really great Scooby-Doo short film about the Velma show. You guys should go watch it. It's about Scooby-Doo like killing all of them, but it's really good. Very
Ooh,
scary, very
okay,
spooky.
okay.
But what I was gonna say was I saw a TikTok the other day, and so I can't really say this is super credible, but apparently the Scooby-Doo gang might be based on real people who existed.
Stop it right now.
Like Velma Dinkley, Daphne, whatever her name was,
I actually don't know Daphne's
Fred
last
Jones, and what's his name? Not Shaggy. He has like a real name.
name.
That,
Scooby Scooberton.
well, Scooby wasn't involved from what I understand. There was no talking dog.
Damn.
But like there were all these kids who would have like had mental issues, like
Interesting.
multiple personality disorders and like and social anxieties and stuff like that. Very interesting, but I think they got all arrested or something. Like there's something to it.
What?
But I can't credit it. But please, if anyone knows the story or can comment, or you guys should just go look it up yourselves. I heard about this just recently that the Scooby-Doo gang may have actually been real people, and you can like find their photos. Like from like the 70s or something.
God.
80s?
And like that's what it was based off of, right? Was it?
Yeah, something like that. I think so. No, I mean the show was, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. I don't know. Sorry to go off on
Oh
that
my
tangent,
God.
but
that's
it
actually
was
crazy.
and it
I
was
did not
kinda
know
scary.
that like at all. That's actually wild. I mean, I hope that there was a really high kid named Shaggy that was just sharing sandwiches
I
with a
can't
dog.
figure out why I can't remember Shaggy's real name because it's a weird name.
Shaggy Shaggerton.
No, it's not Shaggy Shagger.
Close enough.
Oh my God, I can't remember, but it's fine.
Dude, that is
But yeah,
Okay.
going back
That's
to it
interesting.
though, I don't know. I don't know why Uncanny Valley stuff scares me. It's about stuff that just doesn't belong, but it's still there.
yeah.
It doesn't even have to be Uncanny Valley because like there's a difference between like things that are not supposed to be there but are and regular supernatural occurrences like ghosts and aliens. That doesn't scare me.
Yeah.
Not often. It's more like a doppelganger where you're
Oh my God, that's so crazy you said that because my next question was going to be like, what would scare you the most, not only in the topics we've covered, but topics we haven't uncovered? And my example was going to be doppelgangers.
Yeah, doppelgangers would scare the absolute shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what would be scarier, but
You got it.
seeing either myself or someone else and knowing it wasn't either of
Like
us.
if they had like an extra set of teeth or something.
Yeah.
Like everything looked normal, but their teeth, or like everything looked
Yeah,
normal,
dude,
but
like-
their, like, I think the thing that would scare me is like everything looking normal, but their hair being different. So like with you, like you have long hair, you either wear it in a ponytail, or you wear it down, and it's long. But imagine
But
like
I show up
me
one
seeing you,
day-
like you show up to my front
Yup.
door, and you got short hair.
I mean, I could
That
have just
would
gotten a
s-
haircut, but like,
yeah, but that would like scare me because I know you would send me Snapchats.
this is true.
Or you would like send me a pic, or you would say like,
Well, now I
did
know-
something, ... You know, like
Now I know what prank I'm gonna pull on you. I'm just gonna.
if you pulled that, I just wouldn't open the door. I'd be like, cool, and then just shut the door.
Dude, I just wait outside your
I
house
couldn't
by
even
the
call.
window,
I couldn't
but I
even
have
call
short
the
hair.
cops. Stop.
I don't call you. I don't text you. I don't anything. I'm just standing outside your window,
And
but I
then,
have
like,
short
you-
hair, and I'm just looking in.
And you like walk to the back door or something. You just wait out there until.
That
I,
is
like,
the
open
funny
door.
thing.
Nah,
I have
dude.
walked into Brent's backyard before,
And has not told me a
Not
single
told him.
thing. Like,
and he's freaked out
well, yeah, because I just walk out the back door and I'm
because you're
like,
trespassing.
and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing back here? Like,
Yeah,
dude,
dude,
no,
no.
that's scary. That's
Did
scary.
we just dude, not at the same time?
maybe, maybe. Yeah, so like doppelgangers, definitely want to do an episode on that.
Are
I
you
definitely
scared?
wanna-
Speaking of like, what do you call it? Spooky occurrences that we have or have not talked about. Are you scared of SWs?
I mean, maybe. I'm not more scared, if that makes sense. If that's like an actual sentence. Like,
Okay.
I'm not more scared of them than I would be with like black-eyed kids.
Okay, fair.
Like,
the
black-eyed
reason I
kids
asked,
are terrifying because they'll just show up out of nowhere.
yeah,
And then it seems like they have some like weird hypnagogic power over you where they can just like don't like let me in, and you're just like about
you
to
don't even
reach for the door.
realize,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I don't. Yeah, no, I'm all right. I'm
Well,
all right.
I think the reason I was asking though was because you and your mom. I know I got the question wrong potentially because was it because of a rake?
I mean, we seen the rake.
So
What
that's
we thought was the rake. Do you remember that when we were driving?
us?
Yeah, when we were driving.
when.
Remember when we were like, "What was that?" Like we saw the
You
weird
just
like
say that.
white.
We've had that a lot lately.
Oh yeah, you're right. No. This is like a while ago. Oh wait, you know what? I think
'Cause-
you're right. I think that was my mom.
Yeah,
We were
'cause I
driving
thought it
on
was
the
your
road and was
mom.
like, "Did you see that weird like lengthy white?"
Yes.
thing.
I remember you telling me this story.
Yeah.
Does that not like freak you out that your family has seen it and stuff like that, or that?
Well, I think I come from a long line of people who just see weird shit.
That's fair.
You know, I wouldn't say we're like attuned to anything because again, a lot of the stuff that you have seen, I have not seen.
No,
Like
that's a
I've
good
not
point.
seen a
That's good
shadow
point.
person. I've not like people have told me they've seen it around me. I've never seen it.
Does
which I think
that
that's like
not scare you? Knowing that people, at least two occurrences I can think of, have seen a shadow being behind you a foot away and that you didn't know it was there?
I mean, maybe a little bit. I think the one that scares me the most is when I was at George Air Force Base, like in the pitch
yeah.
black, and like it was like probably like 1 or 2 a.m. back when I was a hoodlum and I was like keeping crackhead hours. Like now I can't even stay awake till like 10:30. But like I remember I was like over there with some friends that we had met when we went to George Air Force Base during the day. And we had gotten out of the cars. We had went to like the darkest part of like the Air Force Base because like we were afraid that like military police. By the way, guys, don't go out there at night. It's like far more scary just because
It's
the fact
not
that the
worth it. Yeah,
the
no.
security is so much. It makes it so much scarier than
Are
it
you?
should be.
You're
Like-
saying the security makes it not worth it because it's scary, or because there's just security that'll.
Well, I
ruin
mean,
your
they
fun?
don't show up in cars. They show up in the big old like military Humvees, bruh. Like that is terrifying.
Yeah,
but
that's
like,
true.
I remember we went out to like the darkest spot, and they were like, "Hey, let's go into the abandoned apartments." And of course, I was like, "Well, I ain't no baby bitch, so of course I'm gonna go into those apartments, right?" And we got out. I had my car, and then it was a guy, Austin. He had his car, and it was me, him, and 2 other girls, and we had all walked into there. And from the moment I walked into the one building, I was like, I mean, it kind of feels odd, but like I don't like see anything or feel anything. It was more like one of those like, oh, it's like probably like my imagination type of thing, like where I'm just like, oh, I'm spooking myself out. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna leave it alone. And we had walked upstairs, and by the time I had walked upstairs, there was just this random moment where no one was there, like around me, and I was like, this is a little odd. Like where did everyone go, right? Because they were all like all walking with me, and like we all had our phone flashlights, which again, like we'll talk about in Maine too. Phone flashlights don't do anything whatsoever when you're in the pitch black. So we had our phone flashlights on. I like flash them over to like the next room, and they were all standing there, but they didn't say anything. So I was like, okay. We're like weirdos. Like, I don't know why you're not saying a word, right? And so like we were kind of like, okay, let's walk downstairs. We'll go into the next like, you know, apartment building. And then as I was walking down the stairs, I slipped like down like 6 stairs on a broken down door. Like there was a door where you had to like walk on and then like go around, you know, into the next stairwell.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shoot, like that was crazy. Like I could have like fell, you know?
Oh shoot.
Like I could have fell and hurt myself, right? But I was like, okay, whatever. It was just the door. And this whole time, like no one was saying anything to me, which like was creeping me out a little bit more than anything else. So I was like, okay, whatever. And we had walked down. We had went over to Austin's car and my truck, and we were sitting in my truck bed and leaning against Austin's like his the hood of his car, and we were all just talking, having a good time or whatever. I was like, all right, well, I gotta go because it's freaking late. I gotta drive down, you know, all this stuff. So I get in the car, start driving down. I get home, and then they all call me, and I was like, that's freaking weird, right? Like, you know, like people in our generation don't call. They just send a text, be like, hey, it was good seeing you. See you tomorrow or something, you know, like something like that. And I answered the phone. I was like, yeah, like, what's up? And they were like, okay, good, you're home. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, why? Who says something like that? So I was like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, okay, well, we didn't want to tell you while we were there, but like as soon as you walked into that specific apartment building, we'd seen this black mass that followed you throughout the entire building. Like to the point where it was like they were shining flashlights and everything, and like this black mass was like eating up the light like around me, but like everywhere else they would shine the light like it was just normal. And they were like, we could have sworn like when you slipped down that, you know, door that the black mass like moved in close to you, like as if it pushed you, and he slid down that like, you know, little flight of stairs. And yeah, so they told me something like that, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. like that's crazy. But
I hope you know, if I ever see something like more than likely supernatural near you or touching you or attacking you, and you can use literally my first Shadow Man encounter as a prime example, I'm gonna let you know.
Please do.
I'm not gonna just like let you get knocked down the stairs.
No, because I was just thinking like, oh, it was my own klutz self that just, you know,
kind of like how the black-eyed kids though can manipulate how you perceive like your own actions. Maybe you didn't realize it because whatever did knock you down, if there was something there, made you think you tripped or you accidentally slipped or
Yeah,
fell?
because I was not thinking paranormal like at all. I mean, I was spooked out just because it was an abandoned building, but like I didn't think anything of like paranormal type of situation, but they all did. So that was like 3 people out of 1 that was just like, that was weird, buddy. Like, like
Yeah.
that was weird, and you need to check yourself because that was some scary stuff. And they said that the black mass was around me when we were sitting in the truck bed, like talking. So it like
It was like
wasn't
next,
just
it was
in the
next to
building.
you, like
Yeah.
in the car.
yeah.
Oh,
So
see, yeah, nah, I'm okay.
I don't know, but I mean, again, like we've talked about before, like I don't normally see it, so I don't, you know.
But you're not. That doesn't bother you.
I mean, it's weird, but like,
But it doesn't give you that sense of dread the way.
No,
like, other
no.
Okay.
but I mean,
that's interesting. No, but
the sense of dread was when we did the Estes method. That was the sense of dread that I felt where, for the first time in my life, I was like, there's 100% something here, and I can't even describe it. I can't even feel it. I can't even like begin to like give an answer as to what this is, but there's something behind me. There's something watching me, actively watching me.
did it? I don't know if this is a stupid question, but did it touch you in any way, or like make itself
Well, I don't-
physically known, or was it more of that rushing behind you kind of feeling, or? Anything
Well, I don't
like
know. Like, yeah, there was like that rushing behind me type of feeling, but like there was that time where, and again, for chat in Patreon, we will release the audio recordings we took when we did that session, where I had said to you, I was like, "Is it windy?"
Mm-hmm.
And you were like,
It wasn't.
No,
It wasn't particularly
like
windy.
at all.
No.
Like it was not windy, but I felt my hair in the back of my head like moving like violently, as if it was like a gust of wind type of thing, picking up my hair, moving it around type of thing. And you told me like, no, like
Yeah, no.
it's not windy, it's not anything like that. So like, yeah, I don't know. I think that probably scared me the most, because that was like one of those times where it was like, damn, I don't even have to see anything to know that there's 100% something here, like watching, like at least me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like
It made it real for you.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, and especially like, and for chat, we'll also like when we did the Estes method, because I don't think we had ever like gone into details about what we did, but we had gone down to the same road that you had actually seen the shadow person like appear in front of you,
Yes.
and
The
you had
second time.
swerved out of the way, all this stuff, and we decided like, hey, maybe there's something that we need to kind of like explore, like out here that's not just like around our houses or anything, but like maybe like let's go out there. So we had taken the trip to go out there, and we had parked on the side of the road. We'd gone out to like this creek or whatever. We had sat down and we had done this thing called the Estes method, where you would basically play white noise in headphones, and you would put the noise canceling headphones on, and you would be blindfolded so you couldn't see anything, and then you would have a notebook like right in front of you, and like whatever you like heard or like sensed or anything like that, you would either write or draw like whatever like in the notebook. And when we did yours, it was a little interesting, because we got a lot of like, well, we put maps in satellite view, and like we kind of found like a place where it was like, maybe it was like a physical place that was like there, like you had drawn a river, and then you had drawn an eye, and then we went into satellite view, and we went down, and where we were at was by a river, was by a riverbed. And then when we moved up the river part, there was a rock that was like shaped like the eye you had drawn.
It was very distinctly like the very same because it wasn't like a perfect circle. It wasn't a perfect eye shape. It was very much like the waves of the river itself, and it had sort of an off part that basically went into a circular motion, almost like a spiral in a way, and that's kind of how I drew it. And there was a place on the maps that almost fit that like visual description to the T.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you had like that, which yours was very like drawing specific. Mine was, I mean, I didn't get anything for most of the session. Like, I kind of just sat there, and then like once it hit maybe the 10-minute mark out of 15, it was just flood of things just going on, like shadow person, really, just really dark, you know, whatever it was, entity standing behind me.
You had seen something, didn't you? You saw, like, in your mind's eye, obviously, because of the methods we were doing, but you had seen a door?
Yeah. So I'd seen a shadow being darker than dark, opening a door, and the doorway just like as soon as they opened the door, just shined this crazy bright light, almost as if like if someone was in the bathroom in the middle of the night and they open the door, and if you're like on the side of it, not like looking directly at it, it was just like super bright. You could almost like see the light beams like coming out of it, type of thing.
Yeah.
But when it was hitting like the shadow person, they didn't like light up. It was just still like a black mass of person. And that was like very weird.
And that was like the first thing you saw right before everything started to go wrong for you, right?
Yeah, because I drawn that, and then I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, it's a weird like thing to like draw up. But I think like I was going through a lot of like religious like turmoil at the time, so I maybe had like chalked it up to like, oh, maybe it's like that type of thing. But then like towards the end of the session, it just became like, and again you can hear it in our audio session where I had said like, are you behind me? Like, because I can feel like a weird, like I can see something watching me in like my right corner behind me, type of thing. And then it went into like, is it windy? Because like I just felt my hair like move like in the back of my head and like all this stuff. And then I mean, you know, as soon as we finished the session, I was like shaking, like super like,
oh yeah, you
like
were
violently shaking. And I've never like had anything like that before, where I was like, I'm not even scared, I'm just like, I cannot stop, like I cannot stop like shaking. And that actually, I think that was like the end. I think once I went through that,
it was right after that where we were like, yeah, maybe we should call it a quits.
Yeah, maybe it's time to go. So, I mean, that was just a very odd sensation, a very weird sensation. It was one of those where it kind of like, out of all the things I've ever experienced, that was kind of like the one where I was like, you know, maybe there's something going on that maybe I took too lightly, you know, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I was kind of like, well, this is more like Joey's thing, so maybe, like, I don't really have to worry about it too much. And I think it almost was like a mocking thing, like, oh, well, I'm going to show you, like, you know, what's actually going on, and that it's not just, like, one person type of thing. And then we had found out later when we came to my house after that, we had found out that someone actually had died, like, on that very same road.
Yes.
Got in a car accident.
That's true.
And died, which was very odd. But at the same time, like, I don't know about you, but I didn't feel like that's, like, what we encountered. Like,
Oh, no. The spirit of the guy who died?
Yeah.
In a way?
I did not feel like we experienced something like that. I think it's something that's, like, residually, like, following either you or me, that's been following us. I reluctantly want to say for a while, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say that it's following us because there is a smidge of me that's skeptical. Not in that there is a shadow entity. I do believe that is a thing now. But I think it's kind of one of those things where I think my brain doesn't want to believe that it's following, or that if it is, then maybe I shouldn't give too much attention to it. You know, in a way, almost like you shouldn't say SW all the way.
Yeah, dude.
It's kind of a...
It's always sexy women, dude.
It's always sexy women. What is the term for when you believe like what's that feeling or belief you have when someone is like has to hold their breath when they go under a bridge or something?
It's like a superstitious
type of thing.
Yeah.
It maybe you could call it superstition in a way, but I don't really like, trying to be like, oh, it's definitely following us and we should talk about it a lot. But I also am not trying to like hide the fact that, it's definitely been occurring more, which is, not great.
Well, I mean, we've even had like times where we've been camping and we have felt, I mean, like to the T, we had described the same thing to us. Yeah. We had like described
or
the same
tree,
thing to
small.
sad tree. Where we had described pretty much the same thing without even like talking about it. Where we were like, hey, last night, did you feel like something was, and you just went, yeah. And it was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But then we like had talked about it more, and it was like, it felt not like we were going through something, but it was one of those, like, if we would have stayed in that one spot longer, then something either would have happened or something would have manifested for us. Like, in general. And I think, when you look back at it, it just seems like maybe these things have been happening longer than like we like to admit they've been happening.
Well, that's tough. I don't know how long I would say I think they've been happening, but
well, I mean, because you have to remember, even when we were like freshmen in high school, we were at your mom's work, and
but here's
we were sitting in that room studying for finals.
See, but you want to know how
moved and
all this stuff has affected those encounters for me, and even including that school and the red lights and the tree at the cemetery, which I believe we've mentioned on the podcast before. Encountering things like what we have with the Estes method and my encounters with the shadow people have almost made those other experiences not feel like this has been happening for a lot longer than I have thought, but more that was kind of bullshit. And maybe it was something, but it felt like, oh, I didn't know what real supernatural was until this happened,
No, yeah, that's fair. That's
George
fair
Air Force Base, I'll still give you. But the tree and the red lights, even though they're unexplainable, they don't feel as necessarily as scary or as unexplainable now as these ones do. Because
they're just weird.
Yeah, they're just very weird.
Well, I mean, describe like what happened to you at George Air Force Base. I mean, because you had a completely different story than I had, and I wasn't feeling any of that stuff at all until we got back down, and you were like, we need it, like... I mean, there was a point when we were there where you were like, dude, I know you want to stay, but, like, we got to go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like those memories, but I suppose. Chat. Keep forgetting I have a beard now. Basically, it wasn't a long story. That's the thing. It wasn't a long period of time. It was just one real quick moment that happened that freaked me out. And it was because there was this moment where, we thought security was coming and we were going to get in trouble. And so we started like trying to find a place to hide. And everybody very, in a way, to me at least, very unnaturally split up very quickly. It wasn't like an unplanned thing. It was almost like a manipulated thing in the way that I felt, that we were kind of pushed to split up by something.
Yeah, because every single one of us did not split up together.
Yeah, no.
Everyone was in a different place.
It was very random.
Yeah.
It didn't make a lot of sense. And so we all end up finding our own like hiding spots because we're idiots and we were afraid of the security. But I was alone. I don't know if you were with anybody or if anyone was paired together, but I
was alone.
I was alone.
We were all alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was alone, and I had real quickly like dived into a bush. By the way, hurt my arm so bad.
I also dived into a bush. A bush.
And when I was in the bush, there was just this moment where I think it was initially just the adrenaline. I was like kind of hyped up, and I was like very like, oh, all right, calm down. But then the calming, I was there for a while before. I remember hearing your guys' voices after a little while saying like, where's Joey? Like, where's Joey at? And that was because after a while, the adrenaline was gone, but I was still hyped up on something. I was still freaking out for some reason. I don't know, you could call it a panic attack. Maybe there was something with me. But what had basically happened in my perspective of things was while I was laying there, my heart rate started just like boom, 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 really fast, and I could barely breathe right. And I swear that I could hear voices that weren't your guys's. I couldn't completely understand what they were saying, but I could tell that, like, if I hadn't been hyped up on fear, I could have been able to tell you what they were saying. It was, so I guess you could say that's English, or maybe just I could perceive. Because here's the thing, like other stories we've talked about over this month of spooky episodes, what I felt was that it wasn't an audible voice or voices. It was a voice that I could hear in my mind.
Interesting.
It was something that like I was hearing like multiple voices and people who were like almost like they knew where I was, but I didn't know where they were. And that's what kept freaking me out more was I was like looking around and I couldn't see anybody, but like the only thing I could take in was that they could see me. And you know what? And that makes sense why it freaked me out, because we've talked about how what freaks me out is being seen. Knowing that something sees me, especially if I can't see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's like, it was basically that. That's all that really happened, because eventually I finally came out of it because I did start to hear your guys' voices and I heard like, where's Joey? Where the hell did he go? And eventually I like dug myself out of a bush and walked out into the road like we gotta scram.
And then we did it. We just went farther in. Like, but then you had even more voices happen.
When's that?
That same night when we had traversed farther into the darkest parts of the Air Force base. And we were all sitting on the curb and we were all telling scary stories.
Oh, you mean over farther, I guess, in my brain I think of it as farther north of the base, but I can't really describe that. But it was when...
It was like
Was it when you guys went into
northeast.
the buildings without me? And then we went back to the car and stayed by the car by the curb for a while? What, did you hear something?
You didn't hear that?
I heard something. I don't know what I heard, though. I was talking when I heard it. Trust me, I've heard every sound. There's a couple of sounds that I've heard that I didn't mention.
Okay, that one was odd. Okay.
I'm not sure. Because my memory is hearing more of the voices and being afraid when we dived from the security. Because I remember being in the bush that scared me. But I don't know.
I remember when we were all sitting there and you kept looking like over your shoulder, and I was like, dude, what is wrong with you? And you were like, you don't hear that? And it was like, what?
Oh.
Like, what are you talking about? And you...
Yeah, I do somewhat remember that. I think you got to also remember it's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
And ever since the Shadow Man thing, that hasn't really even been my train of thought, but I do remember what you're talking about, how I was like freaking out. I think a lot of it was that maybe I'm trying to remember exactly where my headspace was, because this was after we had done the splitting up thing and I had that weird experience, right? This was after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did hear voices, but I think it was like I was afraid that they weren't going away, but I don't want to tell you because I don't want to like lie. I don't want to, but I also don't remember completely the aftermath. But I think I was still hearing some voices, but I was more worried because of the voices I had heard prior more than I was hearing voices in that moment. But I may have been perceiving voices still. Maybe I wasn't perceiving them. Maybe I was just hearing them. But
Maybe you're just hearing them.
Maybe there were just people talking to me in my brain. But no, I mean, yeah, I don't mean to like take away from that part of the story, but I don't remember that half as much anymore as I do the first half when I first heard the voices.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, there just goes to show you that we've had a lot of stuff happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and when it comes to my shadow experiences, I mean, my mom from a young age was seeing shadow people in the same
That's
house
very
we
true.
live in now.
Yeah.
I've seen, again, for chat, we talked about it, I think, last week, on Black Eyed Kids or on Near That's... I don't...
Dog,
I know you're looking at me right now, and I know that you heard something too. I definitely heard something as well. For any of our audio listeners, we have had so many weird things happen right now, and we've been
on
trying
this episode
not to,
of all episodes too. Like it has been so many sounds.
like, oh, dude, I don't know what's happening right now, but yeah, we've had some weird occurrences, and you know, part of it, yeah, it could be the trick of the mind, but you know, I think we're both two healthy skeptic individuals, and I think that like even some of these sounds that have happened, even though some of them could be chalked up to just, you know, people around our studio right now because we are in like a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
There have been some things that
There have been a
happened
couple
that have
sounds that
been,
were
like,
not that like.
they're like
Maybe some of
that's-
them, yeah, like trash cans or whatever. But
yeah, but
there have been other
some where
ones.
I'm like,
Yeah, no.
I don't know about that one, but yeah, there have been times where we have just we've experienced just weird things, and I think a lot of them sadly have been shadow people type of things. So I don't know, man. I don't know, but we've been going on for quite a while for this topic. This is like kind of like a bantering episode for everybody who are into like all the creepy unknown stuff, because again, you guys didn't respond to our, you know, call out on spooky stories, so we have had to, you know, just come in
what makes
bantering
me
about
sad?
our own.
I think
so.
some viewers are just watching the episodes not when they come out. They're still watching all of them, but they're watching them late.
Yeah,
Because like we've been getting certain comments where they do answer certain questions, but questions that we had already asked you to answer, and then we talked about it in another episode because we got to that recording already, and it was like, well, if you would have watched the episodes when they come out, that's why you gotta, at least on YouTube, ring that bell so you get notified whenever we come out with another episode.
But I mean, for anyone listening right now, we are still accepting any weird, spooky stories for sure, because we were trying to do something with those on Cabin 13 Productions. So keep dropping them, even if you're late, keep dropping them. We will get in contact with you soon because we have some things planned. So,
but don't get too tired of our episode yet. We still got some very interesting stuff for you. After a very quick message from our Bearfax news anchor, Joseph Bearfax, we have a very special interview to show you guys.
We do. So stay tuned, listen to our important announcement, and we'll be back with one listener interview.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Let's get it.
Welcome back to another segment of the Bearfax with the most unbearable news anchor around, Joseph Bearfax. And today, I'm sorry, chat, I have bad news. Bearfax is ending. Not for real. We're going on a break because honestly, as I have noticed, and many of you have probably noticed, I mean, we had to do a whole homage to James Earl Jones a while back a lot of the news is just people dying and tragedy and war and politics, and it's just getting old and annoying and sad, and I don't want to do it anymore. So we're going to be taking Bear Facts in a new direction and coming up with some new, bright, and fun comments and things to do for you guys, and I think it's going to be great. So look forward to that. But for now, in the upcoming episodes, we're not going to have a Bear Facts segment until we figure it out. So I'm sorry. Thank you guys so much for bearing with me. But for now, let's get back to our regularly scheduled program.
Well, all right, that was a short little Bear Facts announcement.
It wasn't nearly as long as they usually are, but
I mean, the world's been just too crazy, bro.
it has, dude. It's time for change. We need more. We need what do we call it on Woodsmen? Hate, love, not hate.
Love, not hate. Just a little bit more positive reinforcement.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
So,
but you know, going into our second main topic of the night.
yes.
You know, this is our Halloween episode, so obviously we decided, besides us talking about like what scares us the most and like all of like the weird stuff that we have talked about, weird stuff we have encountered, we finally have gotten an interview with someone who has had their own strange encounter.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spooky.
So this will be from one of my homies for life. His name is DJ, which you will get later in the video and later in the interview itself. I mean, I was in his wedding. I was like one of his groomsmen. We've had a lot of shared experience together, I would say. And he's actually, fun fact, one of the main people who are like instrumental in me diving way more into the weird, abnormal, paranormal, supernatural in general, just by a simple little podcast that we had listened to while we were going to a weird, spooky place, which me and you have been to.
This podcast, is it the Big Kahuna of podcasts you listen to?
Most likely.
Could this be Astonishing Legends?
It could be Astonishing Legends. But yeah, so DJ had introduced me to Astonishing Legends on our trip to Georgia Air Force Base.
Oh.
And we had happened to listen to the Shadow People episode.
Oh, okay.
So, like, I find it very interesting.
That one's a bit near and dear to my heart,
just
in a way that I'm not completely appreciative of. But
just a little bit. I mean, we had talked about it in main one. I'm sure we'll talk about it from episodes to come. Mm-hmm. But chat, get ready, sit back, relax, get a little cocktail going, feel nice and sweet, and just settle in for a really creepy interview with one of my best friends about a shadow stick person. Well, all right, we are back. We're better than ever, and we got an interview with one of my homies for life. Has a insane story that I personally have never heard ever, like, happening to someone. I've heard stories like it, but like to know someone that was there when this happened is just like wild. So without further ado, here's my boy DJ Ross. So DJ,
What up,
for joining me, dog. Thank you.
dude? Yeah, of course.
So I'm first just gonna ask you, so you said that like you didn't witness this, but you were like there when this happened.
Yeah. So I'll tell the story from two different people's point of views. But I was there when everything happened. I just wasn't the one who witnessed what happened. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's tell the audience like when this was roughly and like where you were when this happened, just to kind of set the mood.
Yeah, it was It happened this year in late July, up in the San Bernardino Mountains, up by Lake Arrowhead, and it was like 11:30. It was pretty late at night. It was
Okay,
at
this is at night when this happened.
yeah. It was at a campground up in the woods, and so yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you tell the story.
Cool. So this is crazy. So we were at a campground, and there's a bunch of like junior hires and high schoolers there, and I'm staffed at this campground. And so the way it works is like there's this whole wooded section in between the outdoor amphitheater that we're going to be meeting in at 12 o'clock. And then their cabins are like over in this area, probably a good half mile away from each other. And so during the day, a student had lost her phone out in the woods. And so she had the bright mind to go out there and look for it in the middle of the night, right? And so she's out there with some other people looking for it, and she's looking around, Russ, and she describes a dark stick figure shadow, not moving, staring at them. And so they take off running to the cabins, which is in between this amphitheater and where they're staying. So it's not a close run, right? It's kind of far. So they take off running, they get into their cabins, and she runs into her cabin, and she looks out the back door, and she sees another figure out there. And this one looks more like a person. He's got a hood on and is like, looks more like an actual person. So she comes running back out into the street that is like in between all the dorms, and then she finds someone. She calms down a little bit. Then we have a guy on staff with us that's working in the amphitheater, which is pretty close to where she was looking in the woods. And he's the only one in the amphitheater. It's dark. All he has is his truck lights on. And so he keeps hearing rustling in the woods, which is like not far from where they are. So he probably heard them, but he said he kept feeling like he had something looking at him. And so he kept like shining his flashlight into the woods. And he was like, dude, I just have this feeling that something is staring at me. And so after they screamed and heard the thing and they ran away, he was like, oh shoot, what was that? And then after the scream, he said he felt like something was still looking at him. So come to find out, the second one was just a creepy person in the woods that was trying to scare people. But to this day, we still have no idea what the first figure was.
Oh my God, bro. What?
Yeah, it's
So
when
it,
I heard
like, it looked
when I
like a
heard the story.
2D, like it looked like a two-dimensional, just like a stick figure.
No, it was a three-dimensional like shadow stick person.
Oh, what?
Yeah, yeah.
That's even
That's the way she
creepier. What?
Yeah. When they told me the story, I had chills, bro. I was like, bro, this is weird.
So and it was like it was dark. So like it
Yeah.
was darker than dark.
Pitch black. All they had was phone flashlights. And if you've ever been in the woods with a phone flashlight,
Does nothing.
it does nothing. Yeah. I mean, you could see like your feet in front of you, but if you try to shine it into the woods, it's not going to do nothing.
What?
Yeah, pretty crazy.
So the figure itself was dark. So it was like literally like just darker than dark type of night, like way darker than the night, like definitely like was distinct enough.
Had to have.
Like that is a person out there, whatever that is like, dude, what? Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy because we have actually if you've watched any of the other episodes, we have an episode where Joey has actually had an experience with like a shadow person multiple times. like to the point where, and it's so weird because you said it's the San Bernardino Mountains. He was driving down from the San Bernardino Mountains, and it was around like 11 p.m. and he hit this long stretch of road, and there was just 1 minute it was just road, and then the next minute there's a shadow person like in front of him in the middle of the road.
Oh God.
Like enough to make him like swerve, like thinking it was like a person. And then looking in the back, like the rear view mirror, he just sees it dissipate, like in front of his eyes, type of thing. So it's like it's weird because I feel like there has to be something going on, at least in this area. Like there has to be like something like happening, because that is like it's so strange that it was like also up around that area. Because obviously, like I know the campground you're talking about, the summer camp, campground. So like I can like see in my head like her like running like from the cabin like in the middle of the street. Like, dude, that is like, oh my God, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
And so this happened this last year. So this happened like this last summer.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude. And
well, it's crazy. I remember listening to an Astonishing Legends podcast with you.
Yes,
about
the shadow people. Yeah.
That?
Yeah.
And so
we were going up to George Air Force Base.
Yeah. As soon as I heard this story, it made me immediately think of that episode.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's obviously a phenomenon that like a lot of people experience,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because there are so many different types of like shadow people. Because dude, ever since we listened to Astonishing Legends that one time, it's like completely like I've like researched so much more like on that, like just the strange stuff going on. And there are so many accounts of not just like shadow people, but like shadow cats. Like apparently that's something a whole bunch of people see, like just really big, like feline looking like things that are just darker than dark. You have shadow people with red eyes. You have like Hat Man,
Hat Man,
so many different like things, but it's so weird that I feel like, I mean, we have 2 people now that have it's happened here, like in San Bernardino, like area, so it's it's very strange. Well, you pretty much like answered like all my questions before I even asked them.
That's funny.
No, dude, I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to just, hop on Zoom with me. This is like the first time I've ever done like a remote like call. And and for chat, we already had some issues because I'm not going through my mic right now. So we love technology and things always seem to happen, but I'm just glad we were able to like document it and get it out, bro. So
okay, that was pretty cool. That was hey man, good interview.
Just
spooky.
Tried a little bit. Just tried a little bit. Obviously, we had some weird technical difficulties, which, by the way, chat, apparently tends to happen quite a bit to people, depending on the topic, where just...
Oh, you think it could be related to the fact that you're kind of talking about...
I mean, I won't say that's exactly like what happened, but it is weird that everything was like completely settled for like an hour before we even had the interview. And then as soon as DJ had like come on to discuss the interview, everything just went like to shit. So I don't know, man. It's a little odd.
I mean, hey, it could be. If we've learned anything, they're always watching.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. But so I had like my own initial reactions to the story. That was the first time I had ever heard the story in general. So like how do you feel? What about, because obviously shadow people have kind of like held a special place in your heart just because like you have experienced like I would say more than I have when it comes to like weird shadow phenomena and everything. So like how do you feel knowing that not only someone who we both know has gone through it, where he has like been around someone who has gone through it, But like not only that, but it was in the San Bernardino Mountains, which you were also coming down from when you saw
Yeah.
your second like instance where it was like full-fledged, like full body apparition. Like how do you feel about that?
That's a good question. Honestly, I think the first thing that stood out to me was the fact that you guys, he clarified to you during his interview that the shadow stick-like thing was actually a three-dimensional sort of object or person thing, you know?
Yeah,
It's-
because I originally, when he had told me about it, he had said, like, I have an encounter with a stick person. And I instantly thought, like, oh, like a weird two-dimensional, like, being? Like, that's crazy. Because there have been many accounts on Skinwalker Ranch, actually, which we have, like, semi-talked about. We haven't covered fully, but we've, like, mentioned in Utah where the Sherman family, the original family who had owned the Skinwalker Ranch, they had claimed that they saw a giant wolf, and when it looked at them, like it had like, you know, kind of turned its head, and when it turned its head, it just turned into a line. Like as if it was
yes,
like
I
a
have heard about-
two-dimensional
yeah.
figure. And so it's like, what? Like, what the heck is even like that going on? So like when he first said it, I initially had thought like, oh my gosh, it's the same situation as that. But then like furthering the story in the interview, I had realized like, oh, a three-dimensional figure
Well, yeah.
that looks like a
because-
stick figure. That just sounds like a really, really skinny thing
which is
out in the woods.
terrifying.
Which low-key sounds even scarier than just a
Yeah.
two-dimensional being.
Well, because my encounters that I have had, the one in your car and the one like you mentioned to DJ when I was coming down the hill, both times I sort of perceived them both, especially the first one, as a two-dimensional thing, but like kind of on a piece of paper. Like it wasn't like it was turned and I couldn't see it because it was in a two-dimensional. It was like facing me so I could see it. But the second time, the one you mentioned to DJ, that time I could somewhat perceive it as 3D, obviously, because like I thought I was going to hit something, so I had to like swerve out of the way. But my mind's eye and my memory, at least,
Yeah.
kind of remembers it being a two-dimensional thing. I can't imagine seeing some kind of shadow-related phenomena in a three-dimensional space. Like it freaks me out to think, because like when it's three-dimensional, that's when it becomes real, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, can we also mention that throughout, this is a little side rant chat, throughout this episode's recording so far, which has not been too long yet, we've heard a lot of noises.
You know, I was hoping you weren't going to bring up what we just heard right now.
No, I heard it. I don't know
Okay,
if
cool,
chat
cool,
will be
cool.
able to hear it after editing, but we heard definitely something like hit a fence outside.
Well, if we were going to, I mean, because this whole episode is really just a spooky episode. This whole episode is our Halloween episode.
Uh-huh.
This is supposed to be just our episode where we share our thoughts on like all the weird stuff not only we have encountered but what we have covered, you know, like because we had recently, again reiterating for chat, we had just covered near-death experiences. We had just, you know, covered black-eyed kids, shadow beings, just personal like family stories that we have had, all of this stuff. And you know, every single time we have covered something odd like this, we have had weird things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just talked about this before we even, you know, started recording. Even like at the beginning of this recording, we had trouble with DJ's interview,
Yeah.
with electronics. We have had so many instances where we have started recording, everything is fine. As soon as we mention something odd happens.
Yeah, and you're right. It's been happening a lot more for these past couple October episodes than any other episode we've ever done. I mean, because we've had some creepy stuff, especially our last space. Oh man, the last recording space was just like in this attic-looking room.
Yeah.
And there were definitely
It was
some
literally in
times-
the attic. It was literally.
Didn't I have an experience there where I thought I saw something like run across the door? Or was that you?
I think so.
I can't remember, but yeah.
We had that, and then I think we had like the door move or something like that. Like in
Yeah.
the middle of a recording, and we were like, nah.
And it wasn't the first time I've ever been scared at that location, just in general. Because if you
Yeah.
remember, didn't we go there once long before we were doing the podcast?
Yeah.
And we went up to that top floor, and we heard something where we were like, nope, and then we walked back down and left.
the door slamming downstairs.
Yes, dude.
And we were the only ones in the building.
Oh
so it
my
was like,
God.
how did that door slam so astronomically loud for us to hear it like across the? Yeah. So it's weird that you bring that up too, because last night actually. So for chat, we are recording on the 22nd.
The 22nd.
Of October.
Yes.
And just last night, I had I would say a nightmare, being like in that spot and weird things happening, very negative. I won't go into details because it does like involve people who are from that spot that I no longer talk to, but very negative headspace, very negative, like things happening, weird instances occurring. And I don't know if it necessarily has anything to do with like what we're recording now, but like for anyone, obviously like none of chat knows, but like I actually met DJ at the space that we were recording at. So anyone who's been listening to the pod for a while,
true.
they will know like the space we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna reiterate all that
No,
stuff, but I had a lot of weird, I would say pretty negative. I wouldn't say demonic, but very negative dreams that took place like in that very spot, which I find like very weird now that we're like conversing and we're talking about like, you know, the actual interview that took place itself. It's very odd to know that that possibly that place had a hold on me, not just personally, but maybe in a spiritual sense, that there was maybe things going on there that I either didn't quite see or maybe like kind of blocked out of my mind or like any of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I had very bad dreams last night before recording this, where you always have to keep it
like realistic yet extravagant scenarios.
Yes, very like took real world things that were happening and then also twisted them into like, this isn't real, but like I can also feel the realness in it, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There are just some dreams, and I think like everyone maybe has them like within their life where you have a dream about things that you know to be true, but then things somehow either get twisted or things somehow like kind of morph into something like maybe a little bit more sinister than like what they were, or like maybe more sinister than like what they are in general. And I definitely had one of those dreams. So I find it very odd that a place that kind of left me in a very negative spot in my life still somehow comes up and manifests itself within a time where I'm conversing with people who come from that same spot, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very odd. And I won't say like everything, I mean, everything is pretty much connected. I feel like everything like that happens within our world and like the things that we go through are connected. But I will give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe it didn't come up because of the interview, but maybe it did come up.
I was going to actually say that, you know, one thing I've noticed a lot, especially talking about, you know, black-eyed kids and near-death experiences too, and, you know, a little bit of aliens sprinkled in there. The supernatural I have noticed a lot lately that when someone starts to encounter something and someone else is involved, things start to connect in very, very interesting ways that don't seem like coincidence. And
Yeah.
so, like in this case, we have DJ on as an interviewee. And now we're kind of discussing the nightmares that you've been having at that old space, and you met DJ there and talked to him, and I just think I wouldn't necessarily not say that there's something interesting going on. Interesting being a kind of a broad term for it. Because it could be good, it could be bad. But I've noticed a lot, like especially I think a lot of it had to do with the black-eyed kids that we discussed last week. That people just start to be connected through things, especially when it comes to the supernatural thing, and in ways that you don't expect them to be connected. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm rambling, but I wouldn't say that you can like just shrug it off yet. Not to like scare you, but, but I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's odd. It is odd for sure. I think a lot of the circumstances that came from being at that spot, being wrapped up in that area of life and that area of belief, because I mean we've talked about it like multiple times. I spent like probably 4 or 5 days a week in that spot at one point, just exerting a lot of energy into that space. And there's certain parts of life where I think when you're exerting a ton of energy, I think there's energy that kind of gets manifested back. I think there are things that kind of, if there are things like dwelling like within that space physically, I think that the energy you put in is the energy you're going to get out. And I have shared a lot of laughs, a lot of, a lot of crying, there's just been so much energy that has been like brought forth like in that space that we were fortunate enough because, no matter how things ended and all that stuff, like being in that recording space, like I cherish like a lot of the moments that like I had like within that space. And I shared a lot of emotional turmoil, I think, within myself within that space. And I just think the amount of energy you put in is the amount of energy you get back, whether or not it be positive or negative. And I think that goes the same for any place that you kind of deem paranormal or deem abnormal or supernatural or, like any of those things. I think that the energy that is around kind of like dictates the energy that is like kind of put forth. We have talked about how, especially with Orfeo Angelucci and all that kind of stuff, they're crossroads, is a place where people have intersected. There's a lot of life going through crossroads specifically. There's a lot of life around water. There's a lot of life around rivers and oceans and stuff because like water is ultimately like the giver of life. You need water to survive.
Yeah.
And, I think where a lot of energy is displayed is where you're going to get a lot of residual energy from either things of now or things of the past. Those things are going to come back to you and come back towards anyone who's like dwelling within that place at that time. So it's interesting, and it is very interesting that as someone who's been a skeptic like a lot of their life, to be able to come to that conclusion that, hey, like don't shrug it off, but like actually like maybe examine it and see like where you're at. So I don't know, it's very odd, but
it still is like, people say careful what you wish for, and people, like in this case, if we're being more specific about it, people will say like don't
like try and interact with demons or ghosts or ghouls or whatever, because you won't like what you find, and they're waiting for you to do it. And I don't necessarily not believe that, because I do believe in some of those things. I don't know about ghouls. I don't actually know what a ghoul is, but demons and ghosts I do somewhat believe in, and I think that, when you want to interact or find answers, you will. I'm starting to believe a lot more that you will find them. But you have to take into account that when you search for those kind of things, it's kind of like you said, it goes both ways. Like, you can find stuff, but things can find you, and that can be good or bad. It can be through you getting questions answered, or it could leave you opening up more questions that will never be solved. And that's just like kind of a broad statement, I know, but I don't know. I just think you can't really take this whole thing or maybe you should take it with a grain of salt.
I think so. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting thing, the whole phenomenon of the supernatural. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, especially this October. Hope you guys have been enjoying our Halloween episodes. But
I hope so, because we've tried hard.
Yeah,
we've tried hard.
But yeah, I mean, it's been fun, and I think, I'm just now realizing, my friend, we got a little off topic. Maybe we could wrap it a little bit back in and then go into a discussion.
Yeah.
The shadow stick thing that DJ saw.
Oh yeah. Like that was
that was the whole point of this. And then
before. Yeah.
I was going to mention that it is also interesting that it did happen in similar areas where I've had experiences. That's one thing I did want to mention and bring to light. Not just like kind of shrug it off. It's an interesting detail that these happen in the San Bernardino Mountains, and that lately it feels like we've been having a lot more encounters closer to home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we talked about in Main 1, we had discussed our man. Sorry, it's like I just got like kind of like emotional out of nowhere, which is like weird.
Oh,
I've like never had that, but
emotional how? Speak light to it.
Well, I don't know.
This is the perfect space to let it out.
Well, I mean, like a low key, like I don't know, like I'm tearing up a little bit, but thinking about us being on the same road where you originally had seen your second Shadow Man encounter, and thinking about that time where we had done the Estes method, and
yes,
I had felt so much. I would say like I felt so much emotion. I think you had a lot more like answers. When you had done your experiment, I think you had a lot more like, okay, like...
That night, I think so.
Like you had a lot more in your mind's eye, visual answers. You had a lot more, I guess, words, phrasing, things, just tangible things in general that you were able to conduct and come up with. And by the way, because now we have our Patreon up, if you guys would like to subscribe, we'll actually put those original pages that we had conducted our interviews and our stuff in. If you guys would like to see like what we actually
you're
wrote.
You're a good businessman.
Yeah, see, we got this, but we had wrote a lot down, because our original conversation when we were on our way to that spot was we wanted to do it right. There wasn't a matter of like, oh, we're going ghost hunting, so we're gonna like, do some ghost adventure, Zach Bagans type of stuff where it's like, oh, let's threaten the ghosts or let's do this or that to kind of bring the stuff out. That wasn't our intention at all. That was not like our... That was just not our thing. Our thing was just like, okay, we have a lot of questions. We went into it even like saying like we're probably not going to get answers. We're probably going to leave with more questions. but like let's try. Like let's see what's gonna happen. And like I said, you had a lot more tangible evidence. I had a lot more, I think, emotional evidence. Going through that whole scenario, and I'm not gonna go back into it because we'll talk about it. In main one we had talked about it, but I had a lot of just something's not right. There's a lot of like, I feel someone here. I feel like actual presences, like we had talked about before. I had even asked you like within our recordings, and like maybe at some point we'll even put those up in Patreon too when I get around to like editing those. I've actually haven't edited them because I've been afraid
Do
to
we
like
have
hear.
recordings?
Yeah, well, remember we have a
The audio
have the-
recording
yeah,
from the
yeah.
yeah.
we have the digital recorder stuff going on, but I've been afraid to like really like go through those because I've been afraid of like what I'm gonna find, from feeling like someone's like there in the corner to feeling wind that was not like there. Which is like wild, like physically feeling like my hair move and like, all that kind of stuff. You start to realize that maybe you maybe wanted a lot more than you thought you would get. I think that was like part of it. We really got a lot of stuff that I don't think we anticipated on getting.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I wasn't ready for a lot of that.
We got a lot. We had a lot of direct answers to what we were talking about. We had a lot of direct answers as to like what we were feeling. And in my case, I had a lot of feelings rather than answers to my questions. And I think when you have that, you realize that there's a lot more to life than what we've told ourselves is there, and whether or not like you're any believer of any faith whatsoever, or you're an atheist, or you're just practicing just good vibes all the time. Like there's a negative sense like out there. There's a positive sense out there. And I think like once you open yourself up to the possibilities, if there are things that you just don't understand, you'll start to open yourself up to like learning a lot more about the world around you. Not everything is physical, but there's a whole world beyond the existence of what you're living, So yeah, I don't know. That was like pretty long-winded.
No,
but,
it's good to get real for a minute.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. I think like that session like really did a lot for me, and this is the first time we've ever brought up the fact that that's the reason why I haven't gone through any of the audio footage or anything. It's like I've low-key been scared. Like I've low-key been scared of like what I'm gonna hear and what I'm gonna find, and there's been many times where other people around me have heard or seen things like you that I have not seen or heard. But I think seeing and hearing things are a lot different than feeling things. And I think that was like a time where I had physically and emotionally had felt something around me that I could not explain. And once you have that feeling, you'll never understand like really how it feels until you have it. So, but let's dive into some discussions,
Yeah, let's talk about.
Let's wrap it all up,
everything we've discussed so far.
Yeah. So, out of everything we've talked about, we've talked about, personal occurrences, friends occurrences, and just simply like what we think about, the afterlife, dying, and the things going on in the world that we just don't understand. So, like, I guess my question for you is, bro, is like, what does Halloween, I guess, like, really mean to you?
That's an interesting question. You mentioned on a previous episode that Halloween is kind of a time to remember and think back to times past. And I've never thought about it that way. I when it comes to the Halloween holiday itself, I never really completely celebrated it. As we mentioned before, growing up in the Christian faith, I celebrated Harvest.
A little harvest festival kind of guy.
Yeah. But I didn't really have a lot of time to think about Halloween a lot. So, I mean, and it's also not my favorite holiday, but
That's foul.
But I do think that lately, especially with everything we've talked about on the podcast and not just our spooky episodes, but other ones as well, that Halloween is a time where we have a lot of opportunity to learn answers to questions that we have. Whether or not we get the answers we're looking for or not is, up for debate. But I think it's a time where there's a lot of unexplainables that are, in a way, more out in the open, more seeable, more
tangible, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Tangible is a perfect word for that. And I think that's kind of how I would view it in a way for me.
Okay.
At least.
Okay. That's actually a pretty cool answer coming from someone who, like you said, never kind of grew up like celebrating the holiday whatsoever, I guess, like as far as Halloween, but as something else entirely. So that's cool.
What about you?
I mean, I like the movie Coco, and like I'll explain that in a minute, but like I like the fact that it's always about kind of just remembering those who are gone, remembering things that, maybe you don't really get it as a kid. Maybe you don't really understand it. Us being, white, we don't really think of Halloween as a time to kind of remember our ancestors and all that kind of stuff. But I see Halloween as a time to remember those who we really cherished in life, and remember those that we really cared about, and we really just kind of want to remember and honor their legacies, like within our lives, I think there's so many other meanings that I guess some people kind of give to Halloween, whether it's like, oh, it's a demonic holiday, or oh, it's like a dark holiday, or whatever. I don't really see it as that, but I do think of, like, with the movie Coco, like, it's a time where the veil is thin. A lot of people acknowledge, like, whether or not they acknowledge it as a spooky thing or acknowledge it as a positive thing. A lot of people seem to acknowledge Halloween as being a time where, it's just thin. It's a thin place. It's a thin time of the year where, if anything's going to happen as far as, spiritually or, quote unquote, demonically or like anything like that, Halloween's like the time for it to happen, Yeah. So I just always think of it as, like you said, like an opportunity to learn, and maybe an opportunity to learn just a little bit more about yourself and your family and your culture, and like really like where you came from, and like learn to kind of appreciate like where you come from, and appreciate like how much your family has done to like be in that place, So I feel like not a lot of people really think of it like that, but I think it is a time to, feel kind of honorable about your family, feel a sense of like, hey, like I'm happy like where we're at, and what we've become and what we can be, and like I said, the movie Coco kind of explains it,
Coco does
perfectly. I love the meaning behind it, and the searching for family, that maybe it's not the family you're looking for, but maybe it's the family you've always had, so yeah.
No, that's good. And I hope you guys can kind of see that opportunity too, and what Halloween can be. It's not always just like, oh, Dracula, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, we love that fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we dress up. We're
sitting here in a Thor and a Mothman costume. It's not like we're not having the fun of Halloween.
Telling ghost stories.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we're really talking about like scary things, but at the end of the day, like Halloween's not always about being scary,
Yeah. But when it comes to scary things, we do have a question for you, chat. Let us know, as always, continuing our tradition, this week, what scares you the most in this world? Spooky or just everyday occurrences? Give us some examples. Let us know down below. For the love of God, please just do it this time. I mean, you're really starting to piss the God of Thunder off. Like,
honestly, bro's gonna get
don't make me do something I'll regret.
Damn,
okay?
you really brought Mjolnir out. That's crazy. Don't test the guy who has control of lightning, bro.
As you can tell, I'm from the movie where I was a fat drunk. So I'll do something stupid. So
That's right. Yeah. That's right, bro. Bro can do whatever he wants right now.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
But we hope you guys enjoyed this Halloween special episode of the Woodsmen Podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it because I'm not dressing up like this again for another year. So
Well, till December.
Till December when I dye this beard white and I come in as Santa Claus. But yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I'll probably
You'll
like
be one of
dress
my
up
elves.
as Krampus or something.
Ooh, that's a good one. That'd be fun. Shameless plug. Christmas episode 2024. 2023.
2023.
Wow. God,
That's
we're getting
crazy.
old. But thank you again, guys, so much for joining, and we'll see you next week. We've been your hosts, Thor Odinson.
And Mothman.
The Woodsmen Podcast is actively reading and responding to everything and anything on Instagram and our email. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the show, or would like to possibly be on the show, you can email us at thewoodsmanpod@gmail.com. Make sure to keep up with all things Woodsman related on Instagram as well, at WoodsmanPod. Don't forget to rate, like, and subscribe to the Woodsmen Podcast wherever you get your podcasts, with video exclusively on YouTube and Patreon. Make sure to follow our personal accounts at Strange Kids and Piemaster J on all platforms.
The Woodsman Podcast is co-produced by Brent Murphy and Joey Rucker.
Our technical producer and engineer is Eric Bessero at Elite Sound Studios, with additional engineering by Brent Murphy.
Video editing by Joey Rucker, and Blood, Sweat, and Tears by all of us.
Any additional content by the Woodsman Podcast may not be used without our permission. Copyright Cabin 13 Productions.
And remember,
If it scares you, punch it in the face.